been working on automatic freight parts, right? That that basically any vendor that charge or manufacturer that charges you freight, you can tell eManage that they charge you freight, and then it will automatically add a freight part to your bill of materials, and then so you can estimate it. So one of the things we've found is people are, a lot of companies miss out, or their margin erosion goes up because they're missing the freight. They forget to do it. Yep. So we have set up so any manufacturer, any vendor in your system can be somebody who charges you freight. So it'll actually work a couple different ways. I've got Hayworth up here as an example, but I'll do another one too. Hayworth, I was just playing around, but this whole bottom section is all about the freight. Okay? Yep. So vendor charges me freight is the first step. You tell it, that's saying that Hayworth is going to charge me freight for what they send me. Then I made a generic freight part. I'm just going to actually show you what that freight part looks like so you see what we're doing here. It's really simple to make this part, but if you need help to do it, we can help you. So you see how it says generic freight charges. The vendor is us, and it would be you on your side. Product type, parts category, freight. What we do here, though, is we make it a $1 cost, and we give it any margin we want to mark up the freight. Okay, that gives us our customer price of $1.136. I put that as a list price, and then I use this checkbox here that says use customer price when adding to BOM. Now, this one part can be used for every single manufacturer that charges me freight, where they actually bill me for the freight charges. Okay. So that's why I made it generic. So because it's marketplace software, but I'm on Hayworth, I chose this one, right? It says who the vendor is, and I said set vendor to me. So when it adds this part, it's going to change the vendor as it's adding from marketplace software to Hayworth. Oh, okay. Then we do an auto part phase. So I think you guys must have an auto part phase already, like for installation, delivering installation, something like that. We do, but I kind of want to do all of them, but that's okay. Yeah, so you can actually make one here. So we put the freight into a phase. So what I did is I made a phase. So let's see, it says 98. I could actually make that 99. I should be. So remember, that's your sorting that goes in automatically. So when you do it here, it just happens in your bill of materials. Then it's got a description, and then it's got a phase quantity of 1 and unit measure of each. Because what's going to happen is you're going to turn on freight for every single vendor that you sell to that charges you freight. And then if you use their parts on the bill of materials, the freight part will appear for you to estimate. Okay, so we want them all to go into one phase called freight, so that we can give it a quantity of 1, and it'll be all of them rolled up into 1 each for the whole freight charges. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. And then we have a minimum charge. Okay, so I put in here $59. I'm sure that's not what it is for them. And then a ceiling. Okay, so I said $7,500, and I told it to use cost, not list. Okay, so my cost of Hayworth product, when it goes over $7,500, it will not require the freight part anymore and will remove it automatically. Okay. If you have vendors that charge you a percentage of the list or the cost to calculate your freight charges, you can put that in here. So I put in here 13%. I assume that's really high. And I told to use the list and not the cost. Okay, so that's what that checkbox means. And that's really the whole setup there. If you did have a manufacturer that uses a third-party freight carrier, do you have any of those? Where the freight will actually come from a separate vendor?
Are you talking the LTL shipment?
So the manufacturer isn't the one that ships it to you. They have a third-party freight company that picks it up there, and then since it gets it to you, you get a bill from the freight company and not from the manufacturer. No, you don't have any of those? Okay, well, that makes it real easy. If you did, though, you would just make a part. Instead of having generic freight, you see I have a freight WNA.
Oh, yep.
So this is a trucking company, right? So I can put this trucking company on Hayworth, telling it that Hayworth is not going to be billing me, so it's going to cut the purchase order, the WNA, but it's still going to use the amounts from Hayworth. Okay, and then I wouldn't say set vendor to me on that. Okay, so what other vendor charges you freight that I might have in my database?
Well,
you guys don't sell Technion, right? AIS?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I've got it under affordable. Okay. Affordable. That's not it. AIS. Wow. God, I know I have them.
Excuse me, Mary. The new action item 2 performed has been added to your queue.
Affordable. Wow. Okay. How about we do Han? Okay. So Han. Again, if they charge me freight, vendor charges me freight, set vendor to me, generic freight goes into that same freight auto part. Although you guys can actually combine that with your auto parts, and it will actually go in with other auto parts that you guys do. Again, a minimum charge, a ceiling, a freight calc. Okay, so I'm actually just going to put in a ceiling. I'm not going to put any other calculations in it. So let's say they at $15,000 list, they stop charging me. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go into a project. And, and by the way, I'm sorry. One more thing about the setup. Because you have a lot of vendors and a lot of them will charge you freight, we have, if you go to the analysis, create run analysis queries, and go to company locations, and then you just pull up all your company types of vendor. Okay, that'll pull up a complete vendor list for you. And I made a layout that I'm including with the update that will give you just the vendor and all the fields you fill out for that. Okay, so you literally can fill everything out here. So this auto freight part has your freight parts in it. You just choose it out of the list. Change vendor, auto part phase, all those things are in there. And then minimum charge, you just type in a dollar amount, freight cap, dollar amount. This is whether you're going to use cost or list, the cap freight, calculate freight percent, and the whether you're going to use cost or list for that. Okay, so all that's together, and you literally can go down your list here and do it all right in here. You see how I've got some in here already. Okay, and then when you go into a project, I'm just going to pull up one I already have here. Okay, so in this QB stuff, okay, I have a Hayworth chair, I have deliver and installation, and I have a freight charge, okay? And you notice how it's $489.69 for the freight charge, right?
Yep.
And that is 13% of my total list of that chair. So $3766.68, let's just calculate that out. 3766.68 or 88 times 0.13, 489.69. Okay, so let's calculate that out. If I change this to 5, 6, of course it's not going to do it for me because I'm recording. Okay, 734.54. And if I go to a quantity of 1, remember that Hayworth was set up to do a minimum charge of $159.
Yep.
The 13% of my list on one of these will be $122 something. Okay, so what's going to happen is it's now taken the 159 because I have a minimum charge, so it's not going to let me go below that minimum charge when I put in too little. Cool. And then if I go over the threshold, okay, do you see what just happened? My whole freight phase went away and my part went away because now it's not going to be applicable anymore because now I've gone over the amount that I said the freight threshold was. Okay.
So
if I bring it down again, it's going to put that freight part right back and the freight phase back. And it's calculated out at the 13% of list.
So what if you added more stuff in a different phase, but it still recognizes?
It's per option. So it's per option for the freight cap.
Okay.
So as long as everything's under one option, it's gonna sum all this stuff up. So now I'm gonna go put a Han.
So say I added another part and it got me over that threshold, it would remove it within that option? Okay.
That's right. That's exactly right. Or if you copy and paste from another project that's got stuff in it that would affect it, yes. So the things that will affect it, obviously, are the quantity on the line item, the list on the line item, the cost on the line item, the manufacturer discount on the line item, plus the other places that you can change those are on the price buys, right? So if I did a price by product type, and I put in a different manufacturer discount there, that would change my cost, right?
Yep.
So that would change my, if I was doing the calculation of the cost, that would change my auto calculating, right? Yep. If I change the, and if I do the threshold by cost, that could change whether that freight part shows up again or it doesn't show up on there again. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and add another something from Project Spec here from Han. There we go. Let's do Han desking. Okay, we'll take that one. Okay. Now, if I go back to my QB stuff, you see now I have two generic freight parts. Okay. Yep. This one, I didn't tell it to do a minimum charge or a calculation. So it's just all I do is when I do the cost, and you'll see that it is, in fact, Han as the vendor on that. Okay. So the way I made that part, remember, was with a $1 cost with a margin applied to it to get to market it for my customer. So all I do here is I go and put in the cost that I get from Han for my estimate. Okay, so if it's say $750, I put in the $750 as the quantity, and it does everything else for me. It does my sell, everything for me right there. Okay. Okay. Now, if you set up freight parts and you don't, and because remember they're automatic and they will go away if you hit the threshold. But if you set them up and then you go to make a quote and you did not put any value to one of them, it will yell at you. Okay? So it'll tell you, hey, these parts are on here, right? It's an automated thing, and it'll let you go through. You have to say yes to every time for every one of the ones that you skipped. It also logs your user ID, the date and time, and what you answered to that question because and not for you, Mary Beth, but just so we can point back and say this is where that happened, right? And here's who did it to you, so that we don't get blamed for it. So anyway, so that. Oh, and you see if I actually get rid of this HON part. Let me just get rid of it off of here. Let's see, did it go away? Yeah, so now I have my one that's Hayworth. Okay, so it's dynamic. It does it as you add things or import into them or copy and paste. Anything that you do in here is gonna generate that. So,
Okay.
So what do you think?
No, I like it. Because there are certain vendors that we seem to forget.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when you think about that, I mean, that is a percentage right off the top of your margin. So. And of course, this will go on the same purchase order as your furniture, unless the part is set to a different vendor, and then you wouldn't be using that generic freight part. You'd be making one specific for that carrier, for that shipper.
Yep.
Okay. So, like, I'll give you an example. Space Saver Systems, the movable walls of shelving.
Okay.
They use that company. W&A.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, let me make them. So I had a vendor in here for them. Oh, this is them. Vendor. Okay. So vendor charges me freight. Don't set the vendor to me because I'm going to use a different part that's specifically for their third-party shipper. Yep. Okay. I still want to do an auto part phase ID or auto part phase. Okay. And if you don't have any auto part phases, if there's nothing in here, you can create a brand new one right here. Okay. You just say new, and it'll let you fill this stuff out.
And you just do 99 parentheses.
Yeah, I do the 99 to make sure that freight always shows up on the bottom of the quote and not, so no matter what else I put in there, it's going to be on the bottom. And again, minimum charge if there is any. If there isn't, then a freight ceiling. If there's not a freight ceiling, then a percentage. If there's no percentage, then you're done. But this one thing right here, the freight calc percent is the only thing that's obviously going to calculate. So, but with your cost on the part being $1, right? Your percentage is going to work out perfectly because it'll be a dollar for dollar percent match. So, all right. So, anyway, again, you can do all that right inside the where are you? Inside of your analysis window where you're looking at all your vendors. Do it right there. You don't have to go in and do every single one, double clicking, going and saving. All the stuff's available right there. The only thing you can't do is do a new auto part phase. But once you have one, you're probably just going to use that. So. Okay, so let me just show you what it looks like on the quote. Oh, actually, I'm gonna add back a HON part, and I'm going to show you what happens if you leave 0. I don't even know what all this means, do you? Did I choose something with com fabric? I want to back up. I do. Did I choose something here that said com fabric? Yeah, we're not doing that one. We're going to go back. We'll do another desk. It's easy. Too far. On. There we go. All right, we'll do desking again. Okay, so now when I go back here, right, I've got it in here, but it's at 0.
Yep.
Okay, so when I try to go over to my quote, okay, that's actually that's the auto parts on one of something. Yes. Well, maybe I just lied to you. Maybe that's 0. That's the wrong thing. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, so you see how, because I put it in with when I did the auto part phase, I put it in there with the phase quantity and the phase you measure. So no matter how many freight parts are in there and what the cost is on each of those, showing, the quantity is 500 or 700 or 2,000 or whatever, it's going to roll itself up into the quantity of 1 with 1 price.
Yep.
Cool?
So we have a question for you.
Yes.
Can the...
Oh, here, let me stop the recording here really quick, and then because I want to keep this just to the freight part.